Hey, folks, this is Rabble Rousing Rich Berzon.
It's the Tornado, Tony Pennicott.
And Psychic Tom Paget, crystal ball smiling and happy.
And, of course, we got so much stuff to talk about. Talk about a crazy night. You couldn't watch all of the action at once if you're talking about boxing, MMA, and all that stuff. It was just wall-to-wall coverage, every corner you can imagine. And of course, the big World Heavyweight Championship fight, which we're going to talk about at length. It's going to be like the JFK assassination breakdown, conspiracy theories, and everything.
We're going to get Oliver Stone.
This is epic. This is epic.
I'm going to make a movie on this?
We could. We definitely could. There's just all kinds of angles you could go down. But anyway, this is. I waited to write my definitive article because I was like, I'm going to talk to these guys tonight, and they're going to have perspective that maybe is going to change my mind about something. So I can't write it now. But anyway, we have a special guest on tonight, Michael Reyes. He has a very interesting program called Fighting Chance Incorporated. It's a nonprofit. Works with youth and fighters from outside the United States to get them into the United States to fight the best. So he and I have a very important connection to Norwich. He was a former pupil of mine, though he taught me plenty of things too, because he had already been to Golden Gloves by the time he got to me up in Norwich.
Hello.
Michael!
Hey, everybody. How are you?
How you doing?
I'm doing all right over here.
All right. How's Massachusetts treating you?
You know, it was a little rainy earlier, but all in all, it's been a fucking pretty stellarly warm winter, so it's doing all right.
All right. So,
how about up there? How you guys doing?
I'm doing all right up here. We got only half the rain we were supposed to, well, what you got down there, but it's all right. It's all right.
I was up that way this past weekend at Lewin, and I was like, oh man, it's like 45 degrees. I'm like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I used to work up at Gunstock as a ski instructor, and these days they'd have us take the kids out to the little magic carpet area, they call it, and it got to a certain temperature, and I'm literally seeing one kid after another just bomb down, just fall right over in their snowsuit. Just ready for a nap.
Yeah, just go right like that, whatever. That's actually when I was up there with, I have a 4-year-old, and he wanted to go up, so we went up and magic carpeted up, and halfway down it was, it's all good though.
Yeah. So tell us about this Fighting Chance Incorporated. I love the name, obviously.
Thank you guys so much for giving me a call on that. So let me tell you about Fighting Chance Inc. We started a nonprofit down here in the North Shore area. It's not exclusive to the North Shore area, but we have a mission on getting kids active, youth between the ages of 10 and 18. We're doing this by bringing them and getting them involved in exercise in the gym facility at Salem Fitness Center. We have a great boxing background with it. We have about 13 kids currently right now, 3 of which are getting themselves ready for the Junior Olympics. We bring kids from underprivileged areas right into the gym, give them a safe place to do some homework, and teach them some fundamentals about being good human beings, good character.
Yeah, it's funny because we were talking about like almost the same exact concept last week, and it was around a guy that hadn't been in good circles in the news lately, Kelly Pavlik. He's starting a program, and he's been like in the news for all the wrong reasons the last like 10 years, but this obviously shows he's on a better path now, and he really wants to pass it on to the kids. And it's a great concept all around. But, few people want to go the extra mile and do the extra stuff, but once you become a role model to a kid like that, why not? Why not go the extra mile and take care of all the other needs and look out for everything.
I mean, the thing is that a lot of these poor kids, they're not getting the quality. You have parents in the household, if they're lucky to have two parents in the house, both parents are working two jobs, and these kids are either stuck in after-school programs where no one really cares about them, and they don't have an idea. There's no, there's no exercise. It's let's run around and play basketball. Well, if you don't want to play basketball, sit in the corner because there's two 18-year-olds to 23-year-olds watching you, and they don't really care. That's not what they're there for. They're there to make some money. And boxing saved my life, so I want to make sure that it changes other people's lives.
Awesome.
The cool thing... Well, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying awesome. Keep going.
Thanks, I appreciate it. The other cool thing that we're doing with Fighting Chance is that Fighting Chance is connected with Reyes Boxing in the sense that we have a lot of great, talented boxers outside of this country who never get the chance to come up here and showcase their skills because they don't have the connections to find ways to be able to get B1 and B2 visas or P1 visas unless they're the creme de la creme. But they're good fighters, and we've linked down in the DR with a couple groups, down in Colombia with a couple groups, over in Mexico with a couple groups, and so we're starting to bring some talented, potentially good fighters up this way to get them to fight some of the amazing fighters we have here in the States. Good.
Just don't bring anybody from Wuhan. Wuhan, China.
So where?
Don't bring anybody from Wuhan, China.
No.
All set.
We'll try to keep the coronavirus where it needs to be kept.
No, but it's actually bad in Asia. So bad that we talked about another thing last week. One championship, they decided not even to have a crowd in the arena. They're just going to do the videotape and broadcast it and refund everybody's money for the tickets. In Singapore, not even in China.
Which is crazy, right? Imagine.
Yeah. Unreal.
That's insane. That's crazy. Like, to me, it's blowing my mind that... So I have some of my business ventures bring me over to the Chinese area and importing some mostly equipment and flooring from the Vietnam area and even in the mainland China area. But to be honest with you, it's impossible depending on where people are at because no one's going to work.
Yeah.
Everyone's staying at home. So we're going to see some definite issues over the next few months with stock on different things that people use every day that I don't even know that they necessarily realize isn't being made right now.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, I can remember when I first got on the Skype thing, there was people from China who were communicating with me. They're just regular people. One of them, he kept trying to, see if I could help him sell grass catchers. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, grass catcher? And it was like the hopper on the back of a lawnmower, So he's working at a factory selling this stuff, and he's got nothing better to do but chat with me on Skype because he can. And
that's all because that's how they were getting clients. Right?
Yeah, he's trying to get connections. I was like, I don't know, maybe I could help you. I do know a couple people in landscaping. And, I was asking questions, and it's like, they just send you to a factory, and they say, you work here now. And he changed jobs like 3 or 4 times, and he always kept in touch over the years until like 5 years ago. It was probably the last time I heard from him. But other people from China and other countries would call on there when I first got it just to learn English. They wanted to talk to somebody from the United States to learn English.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and... but they've shut it down completely now. I mean, China is that's what really worries me about the whole, this is a worldwide epidemic. Not really yet. It's really only in China. They're a very brutal regime.
Right now, predominantly in China, you have a couple cases that have made it outside of there. I think the big problem is that they're trying to figure out, what's it going to look like? What is it? Just because it's not an epidemic health-wise for us here, what is... we're such a connected world. Mm-hmm. It makes you think back when we're in school and you hear all these conversations, and then you drive back and you're reading about past histories, and the United States could stand on its own and it's all its own out here, but now, man, 2/3 of our things come from elsewhere. You know, we're not sufficient without outside sources. I live in Boston. You know, in Boston, literally the real estate market is driven by international students.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I believe it.
You know, like people who have money.
One of the most luxurious places I ever stayed in was, I think, like some diplomat owned it on the Charles River there in Cambridge.
Yeah.
It was like $1 million condo, and this girl just was able to go there whenever she wanted. Yeah, she was foreign. I think she was from Egypt or something. A friend of my girlfriend's who went to Boston University. So, yeah, I believe that. I totally believe that. But getting back to the boxing, I'm sure you saw the big heavyweight fight over the weekend, didn't you?
Yeah. To be honest with you, like I said, I was up in New Hampshire, so I didn't get to watch it live. I've since watched it a couple of times, just so I can get a good grasp. And you know, social media tells us one story, and then you get on and you watch it.
Oh, I watched it like 4 times.
And you see another story of. Yeah, you see another story of potentially the best heavyweight in the world right now. Yeah. Just really showcasing his skills. You know,
it's a lot of strategy too. I mean, one of my favorite things ever was learning the story of Agincourt. You know, Henry V, the movie, if you've ever seen it. Agincourt is the battle where they go up against the French, and the French are outnumber the English army. But they got machines and horses and like just crazy armor. But it starts raining the night before, and they're going to go fight on this big green battlefield. So Henry V goes out there with his guys, and he sets up just the ultimate strategy to beat them. And it doesn't matter how many people they have, because they all are falling all over the place in their armor, and they can't get back up again, because their armor's too heavy. So these English just coming down with clubs and maces and axes and swords and just destroy them to the point where the rest of them just retreat. And so that's been one of my favorite stories ever, even though it really didn't mean anything in the whole war that Henry was trying to fight, and he ended up dying of dysentery. It was like, you know, his best moment, and it was Shakespeare wrote about it and everything, and it's been twisted. You know, it hasn't really been told exactly the way it happened over the years, but that's really the basic thing that happened, and it's just so funny to me. This story comes along, and here's a guy that comes to the ring with armor, fake armor, and he's now claiming that it weighed him down too much before the fight.
Oh, my God.
He didn't even wear it during the fight.
That's actually where, you know, it's insane.
You can't write that stuff.
It blows my mind.
So, yeah, I'm definitely going to write this.
I look at that guy and I'm like, all he had to do, right, Rich, was just say, hey, I got beat tonight.
Yeah.
Tonight I got beat.
Yeah.
Last time we had a draw, and tonight I got beat, and we should get one more fight, and let's see what happens. That's all he had to say.
Yeah.
But instead, he wanted to talk about stuff going on outside the world, and my corner should have stopped the fight because I'm a warrior and I go out on my back. It's like, come on, man.
Yeah.
They saw that it was going nowhere. You're in the 7th round. You've been knocked down by multiple different shots. You're bleeding, and you don't have any fight left in you. That's what they saw.
I really think a lot of it had to do with the fact that Tyson's game plan stunned the shit out of him. And it wasn't necessarily the successive punches to the head as much as it was just a roughhousing and having to get up off the ground. Even that first knockdown really wasn't a direct connect. It was more like a punch to the back of the neck and upper back, and he pushed him down. And Deontay was complaining.
It was just a big fist.
And so what Tyson Fury did is he used little defensive things like the grappling later on and the pushing around and and I don't even think he did it on purpose, but the time where he friggin' tripped him right after he knocked him down the first time and they called it a slip. But he definitely kicked his foot right out from under him. So there's 2 times in a row that Deontay had to get up from being knocked down. So there's where his legs went. He said his legs were gone from his uniform.
Yeah.
That's where his legs really went, was that happening.
Yeah.
And then, he just never had defense.
There's no legs gone from the uniform.
Never had defense. That's really what... And that's where Mark Wilder is the hero, because he recognized this guy is not defending himself, And that's what a ref is supposed to do, is stop it when the guy's not intelligently defending himself. But people knock Bayless, but Bayless was looking right at him. If you watch the tape 4 times like I did, Bayless is looking in his eyes, making sure he's all right to fight. And there's a difference, though, between being all right to fight and being in a position to be able to win at some point, if you're allowed to keep fighting.
Right.
So, there was just so many things to break down, and it's one of the most controversial back and forth things I've ever seen debated on Facebook to this point. I mean, there's guys on both sides.
Yeah.
But something wasn't right with Deontay going in. I think it was a health issue, though, like a flu or a cold. I think it was something else beyond his legs. That just was a convenient excuse. I just saw something.
I mean, it's definitely... He wasn't the Deontay Wilder that we're told about, but in the same regard, he wasn't fighting somebody who was letting him dictate the fight.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So what, was there something wrong with you? I don't. That's only for him to know. Yeah. But he was in there against a bigger man who that night decided to take a rough and tumble fight against him, and everybody else backs up. He throws an explosive right hand because he backs everybody up with it. Right. I mean, truth. It is what it is. That night, he never came forward one time. He was never the driver of that fight. You watched that fight, and
Tyson and the lead up in the pre-fight conference call, the last one he did before the fight, said something about, we've been working on little things on defense. And I saw another guy break it down in the YouTube video, but basically, every time Wilder wound up for a good right hand, what's his name? Fury would just stick the jab out high over his head and kind of duck his skull down underneath his arm. So Wilder, to get any strength, would have to come up and over and down. And it was ironic because after I watched it a few times, you see Wilder will actually only bring his face or his hands up near his face when he's getting ready to throw a bombing hand, usually a right. And he keeps his hands down by his chest for most of the fight because he's used to being able to get away with reach and up jabbing and being slick. But he stopped being slick after getting a few pops to the head, and that's where you knew it was just going to be downhill from the 7th. So I don't disagree with the stoppage. What I will say is he could have continued. A lot of the stuff that the announcers were saying was absolute bullshit. And it was actually reported by Yahoo that he did not have a fucking broken eardrum, number one.
Right.
He didn't have a broken jaw. Right. He was dazed. I will give them that. But he definitely could have continued. He could have gone another round. But, coulda, shoulda, woulda. And why would you let him? That's the real question.
That's exactly it. I mean, let's be reasonable. Mark Breland's an amazing coach. He knew that he had nothing left. And I couldn't win that fight. So why stay there? There was not going to be a shocking punch. He didn't have that Deontay Wilder bomb that everyone talks about. He didn't show it from 3 rounds past. He didn't have that light up. So, I mean, look, it is what it is. I'm not a fan of that whole let a warrior be a warrior. This is a different age.
Yeah.
These guys are stronger, they're faster, they hit harder. And,
and he fired him, basically. He fired him over it because he basically said, I told you before the fight not to stop it, And then on top of that, he thinks that because some other dude that's connected to the same trainer was yelling in his ear to stop the fight, that Mark listened to that dude rather than himself. I mean, come on. He's reaching at straws.
I mean, what he did was, I'll give Deontay Wilder this. From someone who started boxing at a young age, what Deontay Wilder accomplished was amazing.
Boy,
you don't see too many people
raw talent
start boxing that late in their life and get that far that quickly. So raw talented, strong guy.
Somebody's got to teach him defense. That's all. That's all he needs.
Really. Is he on the same level as those guys? Come on, not even.
What? Yeah, it was.
He had a great fight. Tyson. Let's be honest. The last fight, Tyson Fury won. If Deontay Wilder didn't knock him down,
yeah, definitely.
That fight's not a draw.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, well, good.
Anyway, what's going on with the gym?
Thank you so much.
Other than that,
so Reyes boxing is doing really well. We won the WBC FECA welterweight junior welterweight title down with Juan Carlos Abreu in November. We were looking to head out to Russia, but the fight got changed. So we're looking for our next opponent for Juan Carlos Abreu, who's doing amazing. I've got a couple guys coming up from the DR, which I can't wait till they come up because I'd love you to hear more about them and watch them. We're going to be signing a couple new pros, amateur programs, Simon Bill. Jim is doing phenomenal. But honestly, the big thing now is getting out there, saving these kids from the bad streets,
Awesome. And where can people find all this stuff online?
That's awesome. So anybody can always look at Reyes Boxing. It's at Reyes.boxing on Instagram, or just Reyes Boxing Inc. on Facebook. You can watch and see our mission. Follow your at your _Salem_fitness, and also at mreyes14 for all of our Instagram handles. That's the best place to be able to watch and see where we're going. Websites are in line. There's a lot of pamphlets going around. So, always reaching out to myself at any of those message points, and anyone who's interested in learning more, we definitely can help you out with that.
Great. All right, awesome. And essayance.
Essayance, my friend. We will try.
Norwich forever.
I will definitely. Right? Isn't it amazing? But I did not get up there at all. I feel like a schlub, but one of these days I'm going to get up there.
Dude, I had not gone back in 20 years. I'm sure you have gone back at least once in 20 years. I didn't. It was a spike.
No. I left in 2001 and I've never gone back.
Really? Oh man! So you get to do the almost 20-year return. Oh, it's going to be interesting for you. It was definitely.
It makes me sad, and we talk about it all the time. I talk to a bunch of people, and I'm like, "Oh, let's go." I will, I'm sure, make my way up there. I hope.
I saw one group of freshmen get yelled at and have to move fast. All the rest of them were like
that's it, all right?
Marching around. But the funniest thing was all these guys talking about. There's a fucking Dunkin' Donuts in the mess hall, in the basement of the mess hall now, and the rooks get to use it.
No, is that real?
It is.
They get rid of the.
It's real.
They get rid of the
snack bar is still there. It's totally reorganized. But they have a Dunkin' Donuts in there. The store is in a different part.
There's a bar, right? Somewhere?
There's a bar that tucks into the wall. Like, a South Station or something.
I can distinctively remember getting caught and someone being like, Mike, please get rid of that.
Yeah.
Because we don't want to get you in trouble. And now there's a bar. That is fucking insane.
Yeah, I had a lot of buddies get busted for alcohol issues.
Freshman year. It's crazy. It's insane.
And they're still busting people for alcohol, but it's like you have too much alcohol. You're not allowed to have that much alcohol in your room, so you're busted. I guess they have like.
What you can't march home? You can't march home to your fucking barracks and you've had too much to drink.
I guess. I don't know. It's messed up. Well, yeah, I was thinking, they got a new 21 club. Maybe they rebuilt our little boxing shed. Nope, the shed is gone, completely gone.
You said it's gone, right?
Yeah, they put a bridge there.
Yeah.
And it's just a patch of grass
it's funny how we had talked about that. You talked about that before, and then I think Harlow or someone was talking, like, I remember boxing over there, and I was like, this is fucking crazy. They got rid of everything. I mean, I guess you put bridges up, and you get, we had $100 and something million in alumni funding or some shit.
Oh, ridiculous amount of money.
New president, though, right? New president?
Yeah, it's Air Force Academy guy. He didn't graduate from there. He graduated from Rutgers, I think. But it was the Air Force. He graduated. But the thing is, I think what impressed them the most, I didn't obviously hear anything about his interview process or anything like that, but he was a guy that was in the Army first. So he joined the Army. He became a tank gunner in the Army, and then crossed over to the Air Force, and his last job was as ethics and leadership development office commander down there at Air Force Academy. So he knows his shit, and he knows about serious military schools, but I don't know, he's not a very popular choice among the guys there, because there was another guy, Cedric George, who was a black dude. He was a general. He had all kinds of more experience and doctorate degrees, and he was a Norwich grad. So a lot of people wanted him. But,
see, we'll see. There's always, in due time, there's always the,
And the guy from the Air Force Academy was only a colonel, and there was 2 brigadier generals that he beat out. So he must have had one hell of an interview.
Or
people that actually served with him, too, though. People who served with him commented on Overheard there that he is like a stand-up guy, and people will like him. He'll turn.
I mean, that's to replace Schneider, they needed somebody who was going to be well received by everybody. You know,
he's already done something very radical.
I think that's
how would you like this deal as a freshman or a sophomore, or even senior? So he says he's going to swap rooms with people. He's going to let them use the president's mansion, and he's going to take their room just to see what life is like in the barracks. A few times.
That's amazing. See, Schneider never offered that up. That's amazing. I was glad they have taken that office next to the field.
Right.
To hang on that house for a couple of days. She should have let us have a party in the new house.
Yeah, take it over. Wow. Be like, no, you're staying in the barracks, sir.
Sir, get to the bottom of the hall. This is the free in CMC quarters. Have fun, buddy.
Right. Like, oh, you wanted to live in the barracks. Now you have to live the whole full rookie year before we let you back in the mansion.
Appreciate that, sir. Appreciate it. He'd been fine. He'd be like me, spending half his time out drinking with a bunch of people I probably should have been out with anyways.
Yeah.
That was a fresh.
Yeah, good times. All right.
Well, my friend, I really appreciate coming on the show. As always, it's a pleasure to chat with you. I'll get you some more info, and hopefully we'll see you down this way one of these days.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I just got to figure out my probate situation, get the house all boarded up, and warmer weather, I don't have to, run the stoves all the time, so I'm free to roam. I'll get down.
Of course. It's right around the corner now. Don't you worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. The groundhog was right, I suppose. We'll find out. All right, bud. Thanks a lot.
The groundhog definitely didn't lie. Until tomorrow. Bye-bye.
All right. Take it easy. There we have it. There's Michael. We still got you guys? No, we don't. We don't have the whole thing.
If Wilder could
Hello?
string some wins together, yes, sir.
What, were you guys talking to each other?
Yeah.
On the sideline? I must have called him and put you guys on hold, huh? That's funny.
Yes.
So you were pre-gaming? on the down low.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know what was going on. We were like, and I said, because we sat there for like 30 seconds on dead air, and I'm like, I don't hear nothing. Then I heard, like, almost like, maybe Tom's like a sound. I'm like, wait, I just heard something. So I was like, hello? He's like, hello? And I'm like, hi, Tom. He's like, hey, Tone. And I'm like, where's Rick? We're like, we don't know. We're like, oh, shit, maybe
you're on pause.
Maybe we're recording. Yeah. So, okay. Well, we'll recap basically everything we said, but we gave a thorough breakdown of the fight, the stoppage. So you're right, we pregame the shit out of this.
Okay, all right. I was just doing it with Michael.
Did you hear you?
We didn't hear you at all. I was on with Michael. I heard him, and I was like, "Why aren't these guys asking anything?" But we got to some Norwich talk. We finished it up, and then it was like resume call. I was like, "All right," and then I hear you guys talk. So we're live.
Well, nothing got like I said, nothing for nothing. Something got recorded. So either Tom and I or you and Michael.
Yeah, me and Michael. But basically, here's my deal on it, and you guys can go nuts on it. I'm definitely writing an article about it, but I think the whole legs thing was a crock of shit. His legs being hurt or damaged or having a problem with him. I don't think he had a goddamn single problem with his legs, except for the fact that Tyson Fury threw him off his legs 2 times in a row in the third round. He used wrestling and grappling.
Yeah, it wasn't the costume, because Ray Jones Jr. was saying if a 40-pound costume, if your legs are that weak, you shouldn't be in there.
Now there's all kinds of video.
Especially.
There's a video of him using a firefighter's vest, and he's saying, "Oh, this would be nice to work out in." And then there's him on Joe Rogan saying he actually does work out with a 45-pound vest. So yeah.
And here's the thing: you're trying to say like, oh my God, that wearing that outfit really wore me down. How long do you wear it for? Would you wear it for 5 minutes?
Yeah, exactly.
You put it on shortly before you walk to the ring. You walk to the ring.
It cost him $40,000.
Got in the ring. You took off.
It's the most expensive excuse in the world. $40,000.
Now, granted, I'll tell you this: my Phillies outfit is not. Well, I don't know, because I didn't wear. I never wore what Deontay Wilder wore. But my Phillies outfit weighs probably something like, 8 pounds. I don't know. I never weighed it. The hat's pretty heavy, and there are some days I'm wearing that thing for. If I'm going to a game and say it's like a 7 o'clock game, I might put the thing on at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
To head down there, pre-game a little bit. Then I'm standing out in the sun. It's 100 degrees out. I'm wearing this big thing, and there's some nights when I get home, I am tired because I wore that thing for about 10 hours.
How ironic is it when you really think about it?
But
how bad is it that this dude says, "I wanted to go out on my shield," and then it comes out that he couldn't even handle the weight of his armor. His fake armor. Not even real.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is Tom and I were discussing. I think a couple of things that really caught my attention, and Tom and I will both interject on what we were saying, was before the fight started, and they were talking to the announcers, and I remember Lennox Lewis was up there, and Lennox Lewis his saying was, Tyson Fury says he's going to come out and he's going to bring the fight to Deontay Wilder. He's going to come towards him. And you think about that, and I'm like, that sounds like a admission. And then Lennox said he's never not done what he said he was going to do. He's always been honest. He said he was going to do something. He's done it. And I'm like,
but he got carried to the ring.
Almost like a.
You got to remember that. He had an advantage. He got carried to the ring, right? That's definitely an advantage. Since
well, that was one thing. He got carried there. But Lewis, I've never doubted Tyson Fury. He's always backed up what he said he was going to do. But I'm like, man, walking straight to Deontay Wilder is like a suicide mission. But then when the fight was going on, first thing that popped into my mind was Bernard Hopkins and Felix Trinidad. Where Bernard came out and said, "I'm bringing the fight to Felix." Felix was this destroyer of a puncher, and Bernard's like, "I'm going to bring it to him. We're going to be toe to toe on the inside, chest to chest, mano a mano, first guy to fall." is the loser. I'm using elbows. I'm using knees. He low blows me. I'm going to low blow him. Then Bernard comes out and completely changes strategy and boxes him. But then the other one that I say to Tom, which obviously he would remember being an Ohio guy, was Kelly Pavlik, who was undefeated and a very good puncher, but he was fighting Edison Miranda, who was just annihilating guys. Miranda was, guys were afraid of him. And Kelly Pavlik comes in and goes, I'm going to walk him down. I'm going to back him up. Nobody's ever backed him up. And we're like, that's a suicide mission. Kelly Pavlik went in there, and within 2 rounds, Miranda's back on his heels. 4 more rounds after that, Miranda's on the canvas, sprawled out. Knockout win, Kelly Pavlik. That reminded me of this, where, Tyson Fury went out there and goes, I'm going to back him up. He can't fight on his heels, and I'm going to do it to him. And he did.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that was a brilliant strategy. And it was so good, Deontay probably does not even know what happened. He's not going to know until he really reviews the video. That's why he thinks he was out on his feet.
The other thing that we were discussing,
he didn't have any legs.
The punch that I know Deontay said a few things about was the punch that scored the first knockdown, which was the 3rd round. It was a punch that landed on the ear. And he said, it was a rabbit punch. But if you look at it, it was on the ear, directly on the
It was on his back, really. It was aimed for the ear, but he ducked under it, and that caused it to hit his back.
Well, but if you look at it, it still landed. I mean, it busted his eardrum.
No, that's a lie. His eardrum was not busted. What? It's been confirmed. His eardrum was not busted.
It wasn't? He was bleeding at the ear?
Total lie. Total lie. That's one of the things I wanted to go after the announcers for, because they fucking had everybody brainwashed to think that this guy busted his eardrum. Not true. It's going to be in the article that I write, but Kevin Ioli, who broke the story about was one of the 2 people that I saw broke the story about the costume. Had it in there. He did not break his eardrum. He did not break his jaw. He had 7 stitches, I believe, on one ear. And I knew it was garbage about the eardrum because I've had cauliflower ear. I've had it popped. I know how much blood can come out of a fucking little flap of ear. And the way that they were padding it and the way he was acting, I just had no doubt. There was no popped eardrum. I mean, I've never been through it myself, a popped eardrum, but I imagine that has a lot of pain associated with it. Yeah. And then he went to the hospital right after the fight, and he was dismissed right away. So, if he had a popped eardrum, or they thought he did,
even wasn't broken. I mean,
I think they'd want to keep.
The one thing I was saying, it was like that punch. Whether it did or it didn't. I mean, if that messes up your equilibrium, like a punch like that might be hard. It's hard to recover from it. I liken it to being on a rough day at the sea, on a deep-sea fishing trip for 8 hours, and then getting off the boat and trying to walk normal. You have no legs under you. And that takes away Wilder's equalizer, which is that devastating power, because he couldn't set his feet. He couldn't set his legs. He looked like a newborn fawn trying to walk for the first time.
Yeah, that's what John Scully said. But the real thing to me was...
Well, let me ask you this. What did you think of the stoppage?
I think it was Mark Breland was saving him another day.
I agree.
Yeah, Wilder can say all he wants, that he wanted to go out on his shield, but I'll always say this, there's the words go out in there. And it's not go out on top, it's go out on the ground. And who wants to see that? I mean, I don't even think most fans really want to see that in this situation.
Rich, Tony and I were talking about another thing, and in some of a lot of the boxing tragedies we alluded to, there were tragedies in the sense that the guy losing was still fighting competitively until the end.
Well, my perspective.
Now, I noticed the 5th round. The 5th round, when Wilder was starting to uncork those desperation right hands, he was missing by more than a foot on some of them. A foot. Not inches. And as I've said, boxing is a game of inches. You missed by more than a foot, and it just didn't seem to have the power, the accuracy, his legs were gone, and I knew after the 5th round, I said, I just can't, unless it'd be a miracle second wind or Tyson Fury would gas all of a sudden, but...
It's the wrong body language, it's the wrong attitude, it's the wrong words to say if you think you could have come back at that point. If you really thought you could have come back at that point, when they ask you that question, what happened, I was just warming up. You say something crazy like that. I was going to get him. I was going to catch him. At least George Foreman used to say when he didn't get the knockout, it was a close decision and he lost. Well, I felt bad for the guy. I was going to clobber him and knock him out, but I felt bad for the guy. He had a funny answer.
I asked the referee to stop the fight after I hit him with a jab.
But
his nose, he had trickle blood from his nose. I didn't want to hurt him.
But
you know what? We were talking. Saturday night I ordered the fight at my house, and I had 3 of my friends over. 2 of them trained with me several times. We had my friend Matt, the police officer. He came over. My friend Mike, who I grew up with, and Mike's trained with me a couple times. And Mike and I hung out a lot, long before I started boxing. He knew my dream to box when it was just that, a dream. Never. I used to put the gloves on downstairs, and he never wanted to spar with me because I would always, go throw crazy haymakers and stuff. But he liked to watch me do it with other guys, or other kids. And then Mike's cousin, who I also grew up with, and he is a guy that knows everything about everything, even though he knows nothing about everything. So we're watching the fight. And now he trained with me one time, and I was telling Tom, we're going to train, and he's telling me how I'm going to train him. So now you already got my defenses up, because now I'm going to bust your balls. You're just forcing me to, embarrass you. And he was telling me how great his left hook is going to be, and that's going to be his punch like Tyson and all that. And I'm like, oh boy, here we go. So I bring him over to the gym, and I'm showing him a few basics. I said, now show me your left hook. And he threw it, and I said, that's going to be your money punch? I said, oh Christ, I'm afraid to see what your not good punches are going to be. What do you mean? I said, that's stuck. Embarrassing. Basically, I'm breaking you down. Like in the military, I'm breaking you down so I can build you up. So then he starts hitting the bag. He hits it about maybe 20 seconds, and he stops. I said, what are you doing? He goes, I'm taking a break. I said, no. That round still has 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go. So you owe me 2 more minutes and 40 seconds. Yeah, you don't understand. I was lifting weights today. I said, oh, you don't understand. I don't care. So now we're watching this fight together, and he was watching it, and he was, for the most part, pretty good. So now the main event's happening, and, we're watching it, and, Wilder's taking progressively more punishment, takes 2 knockdowns. His legs look like a newborn fawn. He's taking a lot of, punishment out there, and then Breland stops the fight, which was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and my perspective on that...
His fighter had nothing left. His fighter was taking punishment.
Very basic.
His fighter was going to get...
It wasn't so much that he was hurt. He probably wasn't... I mean, he does have a decent chin. He's never been knocked out. I don't think he was physically hurt to the point where he was staggered. What I think was going on is... Mark saw that he was not defending himself properly. He had done it through the whole fight. He had not defended himself properly. So when he's taking...
He was not defending himself, but you could see that
getting into the corner and get beat like that, I would have done the same thing, because he's not defending himself. And a ref, is supposed to be the
I didn't give him a round. I did not give him a round. Not one round.
I hadn't given him a round either. And the punches were starting, you could see... progressively affecting him more. He was backing up more. He was, you could see his a couple times, like his eyes
staggered,
actually.
I don't think yet, but he was on his way. He was on his way. If he got what he wanted and was allowed to continue, he was going to end up on the canvas. And whether he'd been flat out knocked out or whether he got up,
he would have ended
up over there. And what's the cost? What's your brain cells? So why be all badass and say I'm the greatest in the world because I wanted to get my brains beat in a little more? Doesn't make sense. You got to have some kind of self-preservation.
About 2 fights last year that I did with tragic results, and I said, but now look at the differences. You had the Maxim Dadashev fight, and the guy that beat him lost on the undercard, and a fight that he was winning, and then he got rocked pretty good. Then they ended up losing the decision. But Maxim Dadashev, he's fighting fight, and he's competitive, but you could see the fight was getting away from him. And the last round, he really took a lot of punishment. Like, I remember, like, that fight, he was doing great early, and then he was slowly getting worn down. That last round, I think it was the 11th round, like, they stopped it with 1 round to go. You know, he really was taking some punishment. He went back to the corner, and he was like, no, don't stop it. Buddy McGirt says, no, I have to stop this fight. You're taking too much punishment. I have to stop it. And then, unfortunately, Maxim Gadashev, you know, you could see his legs started, like, going from him. His body started short-circuiting because his brain was then swelling and bleeding and all that. And he dies a couple days later. But he was competitive up until about that last round.
Yeah.
Then you go back to the Patrick Day fight. Patrick Day was losing that fight, but he was still boxing. He was still putting, like, you know, enough of an effort out there where, yes, while he was losing, and yes, if he had been knocked down, he was still, you know, making an account of himself. And what happened in that fight is he got hit with a shot and he got wobbled, and when he went back up to the ropes, he tried to, like, kind of pivot off the ropes, and he walked into a left hook, which unfortunately ended his life. That was more of, like, the situation of the one punch that did it. Similar to Ray Mancini and Dooku Kim, which was a very competitive fight. And if you go back and you look at that knockout, even the doctor said it was that last, basically, right hand, left hook, right hand that killed Dooku Kim. That 14th round, it ended like 14 seconds into the 14th. They both came out of their corner, boom, boom, landed the short right, boom. They landed the left hook in the right hand, and Dooku Kim went down and never regained consciousness.
Right.
But it was that quick. Same thing with Patrick Day. Now, we go back to another fight that Tom and I were discussing, and I bring up on the air a lot because it's one that I'll never forget. Freshman year in college, I wasn't even watching it because I didn't have cable. I was listening to it. That was Gabriel Morales and Jimmy Garcia. And this one bothers me, and I brought it up a number of times. Brought it up to my friend last week, and I'll tell you why in a minute. So, Gabriel Morales was the bigger puncher of the two brothers. Rafael was a better boxer. Now, this fighter, Jimmy Garcia, had just lost a title fight about 6 months prior, and he lost 120 to 108 on every card. So on every card of the 3 judges, he lost every round on every card to a fighter that was not even the caliber of Gabriel Ellis. But he gets another title shot with Gabriel Ellis because, you know, Gabriel Ellis was a marquee name. They had him on the undercard of his brother versus De La Hoya. So now, Gabriel Ellis is, just punishing Jimmy Garcia, and each round is getting progressively more one-sided. Jimmy Garcia's corner, his father and his brother, are slapping him in the face and saying, fight harder. It wasn't a case of not fighting hard. It was a case of him being outclassed by a superior fighter. He was not competitive in that fight from about maybe the 3rd, 4th round on. The referee finally stops it in the 11th or 12th round. I think it was the 11th. Jimmy Garcia lapses into a coma, and he dies. And that really affected Gabriel Ellis. Now, the difference is there was like that fight should have been stopped many rounds prior. So, and I said that to my friend. He was like, "Oh, I don't know why you didn't let him get knocked out." You know, he was down twice.
I know I'm just giving wind to his
I understand that.
sales and everything, but I really do think something was wrong with Deontay before this fight. They did say on the announcing team before the fight he was resting in his suite all day. And when they showed the little face-off that I posted on Facebook between them backstage, where Tyson Fury was giggling and laughing, and Deontay was giving him the middle finger slyly, while he's resting, he was all curled up. He looked like he was half asleep. I really think he was sick. He had some kind of a flu or a cold, and on top of that, he probably stayed up dealing with it the night before. And so he slept the entire day, and then he woke up, and he just was not right. You know how when you wake up after, like, you really needed that sleep, and you're just in a funk, because maybe you slept an extra hour or something, but you're just in that funk. I had it happen to me once in a wrestling situation where I had fallen asleep, and the coach literally woke me up, called me. I had to go down and do the programs, and then I had to go out there and go up against a guy that was like 2 weight classes above me. And I got pinned in like 2 seconds. It was like one of the worst feelings of my life. I'm so tired, and then they go, "Oh, yeah, you got to drink 2 gallons of water just to make weight, and then you got to go fight this guy." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, all right, yeah, I'm on it." But I really, when he took that mask off, he had that look in his eye. Like, I know I'm not coming in here at my
But
best.
here's the thing.
And after the fight, he hinted at it.
And you're right. Maybe he was under the weather. Maybe he was, drained, and maybe he was sick, or maybe. But when you're using so many excuses, I got hit in the back of the head.
He should have just owned up to it.
Now that takes any weight away from anything else. That and as Tom and I said, Tom came out and said it right there. The 12th round of their first fight, Fury realized the blueprint right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, got up from the dead and was backing him up. And I think Teddy Atlas had a good breakdown because Teddy had to eat some crow on this one too. He predicted he called for Wilder to win.
Here's a funny
and
story.
Timothy Bradley especially, his expression was priceless. He was almost speechless. But with his predictions. But like Teddy was saying, Wilder never mastered the basics. He never learned the basics of boxing.
Well, it's also defense and offense. I mean, he's got the 1-2. That's the most basic combination ever, but he just has no defense.
But we're talking about defense, movement, head movement, all this other stuff. Because remember, to be fair to Wilder now, nothing to do with determination, work ethic. I've got to respect him for all that. But he had that God-given H-bomb in his right hand, and that's like a pitcher that can throw 100 miles an hour, but he's a one-note Johnny.
Yeah.
And Wilder never really didn't. I don't think he had a plan B. And I think after the set, because in the first 2 rounds, I started thinking, well, wow, he's back on his heels now.
No, he did not have a plan B.
Mentally prepared for it.
Tyson's plan A worked too well.
Yeah. And again, maybe we're focusing on Wilder too much and saying, well, what was wrong with him? Or maybe Tyson Fury is what was wrong with him. Maybe he just got the hell knocked out.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story. Cause,
you know what I mean? So,
by chance, I watched this fight at Travis Kaufman's house, who is a world-class heavyweight himself, professional, getting ready for a fight actually in April. And so Tyson did the little illegal thing and live streamed it on Facebook. Or not Tyson, Travis Kaufman. And I don't want to throw him under the bus or anything if the regulators are listening, but he was making a lot of people happy. But he made it interesting because he didn't just show the fight, and I think he was doing it on purpose. But he would go back to his face during the breaks and do commentary and listen to people who were making comments. And I was watching right up before the fight. The fight before that was another heavyweight fight, and the same shit happened. Charles Martin, not really a very aggressive guy, but he's up against Gerald Washington, and Gerald Washington never brought his hands above his chest the entire fight. And he did lean back a couple times and slip some punches, but he has no shoulder roll, and he had not really a successive, in-your-face jab to keep the guy off. So he lost by knockout. He got clobbered. He got his face beaten up. Same exact shit happened to Deontay Wilder. But the funny thing was, Travis Kaufman was reading these comments before the Fury fight, and somebody says to him, "Oh, Fury's gonna knock him out," before the fight even starts. And Travis has already bet on Wilder to knock him out in the 7th. So of course he goes off on the guy. He's like, "You should not watch boxing ever again if you think that Fury is going to knock this guy out." Like everybody, we all thought it was going to go to decision if Fury was going to win. And like counterpoint, Wilder was not going to get the decision if it went to decision. He was going to knock him out if he was going to win. So lots of people had Wilder by knockout. I did see one guy with a betting stub, Wilder by decision, but everybody laughed at him. But this guy Travis just was like violently upset with this guy, and he just called him right out. And then the fight starts happening, and like from the 3rd round on, I think Travis must have said, "It's over, stop it," like 100 times. As a fighter, he thought Wilder was out from the 3rd round on. It could have been stopped at any time. Now, I can understand that watching it live and hearing what the announcers were saying, but then you watch it 3 or 4 more times with the ability to stop and go back and really noticed some things. And number one, I noticed there was no problem with Wilder's legs. There was one stumble at the end of the first round. Maybe buckled his knee the wrong way, but he didn't scream in pain. He stretched one time after taking the suit off. He bent down all the way and came back up. Did not grimace or anything like that. It seemed like he was just stretching out his legs. So I don't think that was an excuse that was valid. If anything, his legs hurt maybe because he had that flu or that sickness, and he had the chills or the leg cramps from that. But I don't believe that bullshit about the uniform causing it. But he got hit enough times in the head over the course of that roughhousing too that obviously that affected him and made him probably think it was all that he had no legs. But I think the real victory point for Tyson Fury was the thing that everybody laughed at him and warned him that he shouldn't do, his wrestling. He learned something in his wrestling that made this fight winnable for him no matter what. And it was the fact that when you get thrown down on the ground as a heavyweight, it takes a while to get back up. It takes a lot of strength, and it saps your energy. So he decided he was going to do a little bit of wrestling in this fight. And it didn't really set in until the later rounds, but I would really like to go back a final time and count the amount of times that Bayless had to break them up, and Tyson held on a little extra and came out with an uppercut to the chin while he was holding on.
Okay, but why couldn't Wilder do something about that to prevent it in the first place?
Because he was already gassed. He was already gassed by that point.
He was playing the game, but he just couldn't stop it.
Right.
Right, exactly. Now, Fury did win his match in the WWE, right?
Yeah.
He won. No, but seriously, that's like I was telling Tony, our former guest, Forrest Spence, was telling me. Early in his career, a guy was doing that, and this guy was a little more experienced, and Forrest was just new, and they'd fall into a clinch, and this guy would just collapse.
And now,
and so Forrest
this is the big question. As fight fans, purists maybe, in some respects, all of us in the boxing world, is that the devil's in the details of boxing, or did Tyson really get away with some major illegal things there in that fight? What's your take on that? Because there was a lot of grappling, and there was a lot of holding.
I think both.
Both. It's a gray area.
Yeah.
It's a gray area.
But I'm still saying that just like Roy Jones Jr. was saying that Fury, that Wilder just had no answer. He shouldn't have been playing that game like that. You can move, you can try to catch him coming at something to stop it, but he just didn't have it. And that begs the question: what's going to be different in the rematch? And Wilder wants an immediate rematch, Tony. And we're talking about that, and we both agreed. Maybe, hey, step aside, lick your wounds, get a couple good wins under your belt, and then come back. And Sean Porter was saying last night that would be crazy, because Wilder would become irrelevant. And I have to totally disagree with that. I don't think Wilder will ever be irrelevant.
I agree with that too, Tom. Because you and I said this, when we were on a hiatus. If you look at it, what I think Wilder, should do is like, okay, it's going to be hard to teach the new dog, the old dog new tricks. I give you that. But he still has that tremendous equalizer. He still has, a fan base where people are going to want to see him, but I don't think they're going to want to see him against Tyson Fury right now because of the one-sided nature of this fight. And technically, the one-sided nature sans the knockdowns of their first fight. Now, they said the pay-per-view numbers weren't so great for this, but that was because of the interest of this fight. A lot of bars and theaters were holding it. So you might not get an individual house buying it, but you might get a theater maybe it sat like a couple hundred people, or a bar that maybe sat, 100 or so people. So, and they pay more to get it instead of the $80 fee. They maybe pay $1,500, $2,000.
Wow.
So
now that Wilder has been clowned 6 ways to Sunday on Facebook and other social media, including I don't know if you saw it, but a post I put up there, they have taken the Eddie Murphy clip from America's Coming to America, the barbershop clip.
Excellent.
And they inserted Deontay Wilder and Tyson Fury into the commentary.
Yeah.
It is hilarious, but now that is to that level, you definitely have a new angle to this. Wilder really has to show that first fight wasn't a fluke, and then second one was. I like it. I like the idea of a third one immediately. I don't want him to step aside right away because I really think it comes down to the defense.
If you're a paying customer.
If he had defense, he would have more even chances in that contest.
If
defense. That's
if,
yeah.
That's a big if, buddy.
Yeah.
It's two letters and it's giant. If I was 21 again. If.
Here's the thing. Take our emotional and intellectual. I use that word, intellectual insight of this fight, and let's take that away for a minute. If you are a Joe Schmo paying customer, would you buy an immediate third fight?
No, probably not.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't buy fights anyway, though.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Joe Schmo immediate, my friend Johnny wanted to watch. He was going to buy the fight. You know why? Because he saw the article I posted. He saw the article I posted, and he goes, "Hey, this looks interesting." And he calls his cousin up and goes, "Hey, Tony wrote this really good article about a fight. I think I'm going to order it tonight." And then his cousin goes, "I'm going over his house to watch it. Why don't you just come over with?" Okay, and then we made a night of it. But he wanted to watch it because I wrote an article and it looked interesting. He didn't really know who these guys were. He was Joe Schmo paying customer. Now, he watched that fight. He watched it be a one-sided beating. Now, if I could write the best article in the world, but if he goes back and there's going to be, and he could see the commercials and see these knockdowns from the first fight, this crazy knockdown, Fury's flat on his back with him 2 minutes to go, and it's, wow, I want to see this again. I want to see the rematch. Now it's like, I watched the first fight and it was a beating. It was one-sided. I don't want to shell out $80 for that. But maybe if Wilder steps away and takes a fight, maybe against somebody like Dylan White or somebody like Usyk or somebody, and he comes out there and he blasts them out of there like we've seen him do so many times. 41 times?
The only condition on the rematch, they got to have
on the canvas.
They got to have two refs, and they both got to be from MMA.
And Rich, Tony and I also I mentioned something else to Tony about, go back to Floyd Patterson, gets starched twice in the first round against Sonny Liston. Not once, but twice. Did not make it out of the first round. He's done. Well, he strung 5 wins together and got a strong win behind his back, and a lot of people thought he was going to upset Muhammad Ali when they fought in November '65, and it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. Maybe it was September. And so, but the point is, the Wilder, just a couple good wins, and he's right back in the game again. But right now,
but you got that clause yourself. What are you going to do? You just made a shitload of money, and you probably didn't have to work too hard making it, even though you got your ass kicked in front of everybody. You got to want to exercise that clause. And even if he does step aside, he's going to get money because he has that clause. He's going to get a
shitload of money. Eddie Hearn's already, they're talking about Wilder and Fury. With Joshua and Fury in England. Do you think that wouldn't make money? Like someone said, Joshua could put 80,000 people in a stadium fighting doormen, okay? With the quality of opposition he's had. So what could a Fury-Joshua fight be like? They'd have to build they'd have to build something new. My God. How many 500,000 people they could get in there for that? So I think Wilder would do, he's doing quite well.
Yeah. And Fury and Joshua is the fight we need right now. Wilder, hey, you got to step away. You got to do the right thing for the sport right now. The sport did right by you. Now you got to do the right thing for the sport and let the people have what they want right now. And then you can take another fight or two. You can make some money. You can rebuild your name. You you go out there against Dylan White or Alexander Usyk, and you take one of these guys and you blast them out, and they say, you know what? Maybe he did have an off night. Maybe that costume was too heavy. Maybe this one-trick pony has more than one trick, and maybe he can get Fury in the rematch, or Joshua if he wins. Maybe, and then then you're setting yourself up for another big gate. Right now,
right.
You are not just the B side of this fight. You're the C side of this fight.
Or Fury may retire. He said he's only got a couple fights now. Who knows? But there's always that factor too. That styles make fights, and Fury sure. I mean, Wilder's not done by any stretch, but he could be if another beating like this happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
Anyway.
Well, guess we'll see.
It's definitely going to be worth watching that space to see how things go down. Mark Breland was fired. It's been official. Wilder has fired him.
Oh, really?
Which is a shame.
Terrible.
And almost everybody.
Well, now that's another thing because you look at Rich. I want to ask you this too. Did you catch any of the corner advice to Wilder in that fight?
No, I was kind of watching it on two different things, my computer and on my phone with Travis at Travis's house, and Travis would put it towards his face every time he went to the corner, so I didn't catch any of the corner stuff. But
so you watched this? Now wait a minute, did I? So you're at Travis Kaufman's house?
Yeah, through Facebook Live. He had it. He had it on his big TV, and he had a whole crowd of people there. And this is the classic. Okay, this is the smartness of a boxer. Everybody thinks boxers dumb. That's bullshit. Okay, he's got people paying him through this app to watch the fight on Facebook that he's streaming live.
Exactly.
That he collected money from everybody at the party to pay for. So he's making 6 ways to Sunday money on the feed. Oh, it was great. I don't know how much he made. He probably didn't make anything. But
but the reason I asked you that is we just didn't hear much strategy or anything. It's like, move forward, play the right hand.
Well, it's funny enough that I got to listen to that conference call because, hindsight being 20/20, I can look back to that conference call and the things that Tyson said, like, we've been working on little things defensively. I guarantee you that grappling approach was defensively, little things defensively. Another thing he was doing that another kid broke down on YouTube I saw was every time Wilder came in with that bombing right, Tyson would just flick a jab out there, even if it didn't have anything on it, and he would put it up high over Wilder's head so that to get any leverage or power on his punch, Wilder would have to come up over the top of his left arm, which was genius. And just a very little adjustment, but it just takes away everything. And if you notice, Fury is not an up jabber, but he has a tendency to keep his left hand low because he jabs a lot. So his whole left side of his face was beat up and bruised, but he never was wobbled in that entire fight.
Well, and then here's another question for you guys. You remember when Kelly Pavlov had a guy named Jack Lowe training him? Okay?
Yep.
Jack Lowe had a small gym in Youngstown. I think he still had a day job. And how many champs has Jack Lowe had since then? You want to talk about a body of work? And I believe that was like the lottery ticket walked into my gym.
Yeah.
Now, this guy Dees, no disrespect intended here, okay? But if now that Breland is gone, how is Wilder's really all of a sudden? I mean, of all the people to get rid of at this point, so he's got rid of Breland, so now he's going back to his trainer. And had anyone heard of this Dees fellow before Wilder?
No.
Or does he have a stable at champion? I'm just asking. I don't know.
I never heard of him.
Just asking.
And it was bad enough that they had the disagreement over the towel being thrown. That was bad enough. But for Diaz to bring it to the press conference and literally throw Breland under the bus like that. I mean, John Scully said if I was Mark Breland, I'd quit first. Because that's despicable. You know, if you made the wrong decision, you talk about it behind closed doors and you deal with it and you get past it. You don't put it right out there in front of the press and embarrass the guy for it.
Be a professional. Be a professional. Come on. And so now, here's Wilder's brain trust. That guy, okay? So now Wilder's going to come up with a better defense. He's going to come up with better lateral movement. I don't see it.
No.
Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, you're right.
I don't either. Yeah, I don't see it happening, but the thing is, there's so much drama with him having to now prove his worth and show that he's not a fluke and that he wasn't a protected fighter like everybody's saying he is now. There's like more motivation going into this one than, I'm going to knock him out this time like I almost did last time. Now, this third fight is like, it's on. He has to know. He has to put it together something special. Whereas this time he might have thought, it's going to be easy. I'm going to level this guy. You know, like I said, he had 4 rounds. He had 4 rounds to do it. And you could tell by the end of the third he wasn't going to do it. And he really didn't show much in the first two.
Speaking of Jack Lowe, another fighter Jack Lowe trained during his professional career.
That's my point. I think there was one. Who?
Guy you saw fight. He for a while was trained with Harry Yorgi.
Okay, yeah, because I remember Harry did have that connection with him. Yeah, and again, I'm not singling him out on this, but it takes someone at the highest levels. Angelo Dundee, if not the greatest trainer that I've seen in my life, one of the top, definitely top 3, but I'd say maybe the greatest. Goes back to Carmen Basilio. I mean, there's a legacy of the champions right there, a whole legacy of that. And with Wilder, it's going to be a tough road for him.
Yeah,
because you're right about that. I remember Harry and I talked about that a bit. Yeah, so I'm not saying Jack's a bad trainer. I don't mean it like that. But
sometimes as a trainer, it's like, if you're connected the right way, or if you get a cash cow. Kelly Pavlik was a cash cow. Kelly Pavlik was a cash cow just because he was a kid that, maybe he wasn't the most skilled fighter out there. He wasn't the fastest guy out there. But Kelly was fearless, and he could punch like the Dickens. And he won a lot of fights on those two basic, skills. His fearlessness and his punching power. So it's like, I'll tell you, like, I see it in Philadelphia sometimes. You get guys that are, great trainers, but maybe there's a reason they're not connected. So there was a guy in our gym that if you're in Philadelphia, and we were talking about him on Facebook the other day, there was a guy, Jimmy Arthur, and he only worked with me for a short span of time, but Jimmy Arthur, and the reason I got to meet him, was he had come to Marion Anderson with Gerald Noble, the Jedi, who I was talking about earlier. Because Rich, and I was telling this to Tom earlier, I was sparring with Gerald Nobles a few weeks prior to my 21st birthday in 1997. And a heavyweight, about 250 pounds. Big guy, strong guy, just powerful. And he said one night to me, he goes, listen, I got a fight coming up in 3 weeks. Would you mind getting in the ring with me for a round and just move around? He goes, I want to play more defense. I'm like, well, you got on that, because this guy punches like, like Sonny Liston. So I get in there, and Gerald's moving around, and he's fleet-footed for a big guy, kind of like Tyson Fury. And at one point, he backed me in a corner, and I'm hitting him with body shots. He backed me in the corner, and he got me like around the head, like a man grabbing a child, saying, like, come here, kid. He was one of those. And he just leaned on me, and I'm holding his 250 pounds on top of my 185, 190 pounds, and I felt my whole legs trembling and getting weak, exactly what Fury did to Wilder. And I was like, oh my God, like, this guy is like so powerful right now, and he's so heavy, he's draining my strength. And he said to me, he goes, you know what I'm doing to you? No, he goes, I'm making you tired. And he was. Well, I'm in there, and Jimmy Arthur was watching me because he was working with Gerald, and Jimmy, for some reason, liked me. Maybe because, he saw something in me. Maybe he saw marketability in me. Maybe he just thought I had heart. I don't know. But Jimmy would always watch me when I was in there sparring. And then for a while, he would then just come over to me and give me some tips. He worked on my balance. And people are like, wow, that's an honor for Jimmy Arthur to come over and work with you or give you some tips. Because to say his name in Philadelphia, guys would genuflect because he was that influential and that highly respected. Jimmy Arthur was basically a pauper because he would develop guys, but because he had a past history of alcoholism and substance abuse, promoters didn't want him in the fray. So Jimmy Arthur would build you till it was time for you to get paid, and then the promoter and the manager would say, you know what, let's connect you now with Floyd Mayweather, or Roger Mayweather, or Freddie Roach, or Buddy McGirt, or somebody like that. Somebody that has name recognition that, oh my God, he's being trained by Freddie Roach. That means something, doesn't it, to the viewing public? But in the Philadelphia circles, it would mean more to say he's being trained by Jimmy Arthur.
Right. Alrighty. Well, I don't know about the undercard fights. There's not really anything too crazy, but we had, like I said, the Washington fight didn't go too well for Jedi. But it was definitely kind of like the beginning of the end there. The writing was on the wall. That was the same thing that Wilder basically did defensively. And it ended pretty much around the same time. A little earlier. Where's one? Let me get over to Box Rec. We'll tell you what else happened last weekend. What's coming up this weekend. I'm not going to really go over all the UFC stuff. We had 2 different Bellator cards as well last week, but I'll just tell you, I didn't watch it at all. I watched Bellator, actually, because it was on regular TV, and then I was watching the boxing match on the computer. Because Bellator, we didn't even read the preview for last week of the Dublin fight. I thought there was only one going on, but there was 2. One on Friday, one on Saturday. So you had competing UFC and Bellator cards on the same night, and then the night before you had Bellator, and then you had a boxing match, Bellator, and UFC to watch. I could not watch all 3 at once. I'm sorry, I tried. It wasn't working. Anyway, let's see. UFC Fight Night 169 is coming up this weekend in Norfolk, Virginia. Main event there is Joseph Benavidez, 28-5 against Davison Figueiredo. He is 17-1. And we got Felicia Spencer in the co-main event, 7-1 against Zara Fan dos Santos, who is 6-3. Ion Kutalaba, also on the card, 15-4, fighting Magomed Ankalaev, who is 12-1. Megan Anderson, another female fight, she's 10-4, fighting 4-0 Norma Dumont Viana. We got Derek Minner, 24-10, against Grant Dawson, who's 14-1. Also on the undercard, Marcin Tybura, 17-6, fighting Sergey Spivak, who's 10-1. I'm not going to go through everybody there, but that's the gist of it for the big fights. Then over the weekend we had UFC 168, Felder versus Hooker. And that was a split decision win for Dan Hooker. He moves to 21-8 over 17-6 Paul Felder. We also had Jim Cruce beating Michael Olazusic by Kimura submission, 3 minutes and 29 seconds into that contest. Zhao Nan Yan beating Carolina Kowalkiewicz by unanimous decision. And then the ninth fight of the night, Marcos Rogerio de Lima beating Ben Sassoli by TKO. 1 minute and 28 seconds in there. Carolina Kowalkiewicz lost, huh? Did you see that, Tom? Kind of skipped over that real quick.
No. I had my hands full Saturday night with the boxing, so didn't catch the card.
I'll have to catch that one because I didn't even read about that one.
The boxing and my insane workload at this.
Yeah,
The boxing and my insane workload. I did catch Bellator Friday night.
All right, yeah, we got to get to that one. I'll figure out what's going on there. Bellator. Yeah, that was a good fight card all around. Before we get to that, I did want to mention this big story about Tito Ortiz's fight for the WWE belt of Alberto El Patron, who was going to win a UFC belt from Ortiz if he won. And guess what? I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if Tito Ortiz already collected on the belt, but there might be some legal action to get it back because it's a no contest now, and we have no idea why. Which tells me one thing. They're waiting on a B sample. That's the only explanation to me. Or they're hiding something on behalf of Tito because I guarantee you Texas is one of the dirtiest commissions in this country. And I say that because I believe they had a lot to do with allowing Kimbo to do steroids. The two times he was popped for steroids was in Texas. And they had the weakest suspensions, and I think Bellator knew that, and Kimbo knew that. And, you know, the fact that Ken Shamrock and he both said going into their fights that they agreed with having steroids being used in MMA. I mean, come on. They're very very bad history.
In Texas, with Dickie Cole for years, and then Lawrence Cole, I mean, it's almost like you're getting birded or getting cold. You know, it's been awful there. It just absolutely is, and it still goes on. So, you know, I would agree.
3 minutes into the fight, it was a rear naked choke win for Tito. But it's just crazy. They're saying the results of the fight were changed pending further investigation, and they will not elaborate. But what it is, no decision. So, yeah. I wonder if Alberto will get his belt back. We'll see. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see, too, if Tito fights again after this, or if he gets swept into some big controversy over performance-enhancing drugs, or if it's Alberto. We don't know. We don't know which guy it is, or even if it is drugs. I mean, I can't really say that just because it sounds like it's a B-sample situation. It's my speculation there, but yeah. Very interesting development. We'll have to keep our eye on. All right. And in addition to the Washington fight last week, I don't know if this was on the undercard, but we also had Javier Molina beating Amir Ahmed Imam. Let's see who else. Emmanuel Navarrete on Saturday beating Gio Santisma. And this one actually I watched too. Sebastian Fundora, a really tall guy, beating Daniel Lewis.
The Towering Inferno. Yeah, the Towering Inferno.
He did not look
he's a
very
classic.
technically sound, though, to me. He had a lot of holes for dominating the fight. I saw a lot of holes.
Well, again, what is the guy? He's a junior middleweight, and he's, 6'10" or something, and he fights in a phone booth? Come on. Jeez, that's going to catch up to him. Someone's going to just break his body to pieces. But to be fair, he keeps winning, so who am I to criticize?
Right.
Maybe he's got that down. I think Diego Corrales could have done better if he'd have used his height a little more. But he did pretty good, so we'll see what happens.
All right. Then we got a few fights this weekend worth mentioning. Got a Joseph Parker fight we're going to get to here. And the Jesus fight. It's a Jesus fight right here on Australia. Fox. I guess they need Jesus down in Australia. They're having a rough one. Jesus Quadro, 18-6. He might need a miracle because he's fighting an undefeated fighter here at super featherweight. Liam Wilson, 5-0. Main event there is actually for a title, the WBO Oriental Super Middleweight title. Istvan Cizili, he's 23-2-2, fighting Jade Mitchell, who's 21-1. And neither guy has an Oriental name. That's nothing new. You know how we always joke about John Scully going nuts about the belts?
Yep.
Did you see his post today about the Kobe belt?
Today about the Kobe Bryant belt.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I hated to like it, but he's made that point forever. So I don't know. This is kind of funny. Kind of not funny, but funny. Anyway, Fox Sports 1 has a big card from Brazil going on. Esquiva Falco in the main event at super middleweight. He is 25-0, fighting Jorge Daniel Miranda, who's 56-19. That's a lot of fights. Estelio Hernandez is also on the card. He's 6-0, fighting Adriana dos Santos Araujo, who is 5-0. Yeah, nothing really unbelievable on the card. It's like a female fight on the undercard. It's pretty great, pretty good records. 14-1 for Rose Volante against Claudia Andrea Lopez, who's 26-11. Good stuff eventually. I guess this has got to be the mismatch of the week here. This whole card is a mismatch, but the main event here in Accra, Ghana on Saturday, Christopher Buxton. He is 0-1, fighting Ishmael Tedda, who is 34-16-2. 0-1. He's got a shot. Co-main event, Joshua Oluwasian Wahab. He is 19-0. And get this guy's name. Hope Mawuli. He has no hope, but his record is 5-22. Against 19-0. Was it a double mismatch of the week right there?
Hey guys, let me interject something. I'm getting some breaking news here.
Uh-oh.
That I saw just a few hours ago. It's been mentioned that it's believed that an offer has been sent to Deontay Wilder to step aside to allow Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua have beginning negotiations for a fight to crown the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. It is believed that this time an offer has been sent to Deontay Wilder to step aside and allow the fight to go ahead, as there's a rematch clause for the second fight between Wilder and Fury. So basically, pay Wilder. This is what I said a little bit ago. Pay Wilder, step aside, fight somebody, Dylan White, Alexander Usyk, make some money, rebuild your name, and then someone else made a very, 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 very intriguing post. The winner of Fury Joshua to fight Wilder at the new Raider Stadium in Vegas.
Nice. That would be interesting. Yeah, that would make sense too, because they'd have to give him something in addition to stepping aside. They would have to guarantee him the next opportunity to fight the winner to really get him happy, make him happy. That gives him extra time to get some defense. Go to the defense store, get something on sale.
Yeah.
Start getting familiar with it, breaking that defense in. But yeah, I think he needs it. Needs a tune-up fight at this point. You know who else is fighting this weekend? Your boy Tony Hank Lundy, 30-8 against Ezekiel Victor Fernandez, who's 28-3-1. And I've been actually looking at all of Hank's social media posts. I've been following his weight cut because he's been posting it there, and you need to make.
Yeah, he does that a lot.
I think.
And did you see he's doing the Kobe Bryant themed trunks or something?
Oh yeah. He's showing some respect there and tribute there. That's great. Also on this card, DeFeer Smith. There's a veteran. Light heavyweight at 27-25 with 7 draws, fighting Greg Hackett, who's 3-19. Nobody else too big.
Greg Hackett as well.
And Hank has got 30 wins. He's coming off 3 straight wins. So is his opponent, though. So that's going to be a good matchup, I think. Lightweight from Hockerson, Delaware. And we got Laura the Ram Ramsey fighting in Florida as well on Saturday. The heavyweights 10-7 with 1 draw, fighting Gwendolyn O'Neill, who's 19-7-2. And how about this for a record? Sonny Duverson, he's 10-0-2. That's not the record I'm talking about. It's a middleweight fight. He's fighting Larry Smith, who's 10-43-2. Yikes. That's in the United States, too. Anyway, big fight is in Texas. Big theme of this week, I guess. Mikey Garcia, 39-1 against Jesse Vargas, who's 29-2-2 for the vacant WBC Diamond welterweight title.
That's a good, interesting fight.
Yes, it is. A lot of controversy, too. Mikey's actually being considered the underdog, I believe.
Wow.
But also it got...
Well, you figure that's a fun of the year?
Yeah. But incredible records, incredible fighters, both of them. And I've seen Jesse actually in the media workouts leading up to the fights there in Vegas when I was there. I have not seen Mikey, but I've watched Mikey's fights. It's always incredible. But co-main event, Khalid Yafai, he's undefeated, 26-0, fighting Roman Gonzalez, who has 50 fights and only 2 of them losses, which were in his last 6, but this one's for the WBA World Super Flyweight title. So that's going to be a great one. And then Julio Cesar Martinez at flyweight, not Chavez. 15-1, fighting Jay Harris, who's also undefeated, 17-0. That's the WBC World Flyweight title on the line there. And then, as I said, Joseph Parker at heavyweight. He's back in action in America this time. 26-2, fighting Shondell Terrell Winters, who's 13-2. And that's a heck of a card right there. Nothing really else going on over the weekend. And I believe that's all the big stories we have. We didn't recap the Bellator stuff, but let me see if I can find that real quick. I don't even know which one. What was that? Fight Night, whatever. Anyway, I'm sure everybody knows how to use SureDog. We'll find out what happened last week. We've gone quite the distance on this show. This is an hour and a half in. And we gave you the ultimate breakdown of the boxing match, so we can't do much more than that. But, and then next week we'll be talking about UFC and all these other fights and get a little bit of a shorter show. But we also are planning on having another special guest next week. We have Tommy Morrison's widow, Tricia Morrison, confirmed for next week. We had to put it off another week. We're going to actually have her on tonight as well as Michael, but she had some paperwork to work on, and she's working really hard out there in the courtroom out there with her legal stuff, and I'm not getting in the way of that. What?
Don't put us on hold next time.
Yeah.
I would like to talk to him.
Yeah, we'll have to make sure you're all included this I didn't even realize you weren't on the call. I thought it was up. I thought it was like, well, you guys just let me take over. How's that? But anyway, yeah, that's funny. You guys had your own side.
We're having our own.
All right, till next week. Thanks for stopping by.
All right, guys.
And check out the article whenever I
Enjoy
get
the
it.
fight.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Okie dokie.
Later, guys.